Battlefield 1 is a game that prides itself on its ability to simulate how it would feel and what it would be like to be in a major World War II battle. For this to work, the game has to be historically accurate with its surroundings, objectives, languages, uniforms, etc. But the most important thing has to be accurate about is weapons. So, just how well do the Battlefield weapons stack up to the real deal? Well, before we find out, let me make clear that this is going to be going over the base game weapons only. So anything that came out in a DLC is off the table. We will not be going over the different variants of weapons either, as they're just the factory versions but with minor upgrades or attachments. We will also be focusing solely on the 4 main classes, so no weapons from the tanker or pilot classes. Gadgets will also not be appearing, as most are pretty self-explanatory. These videos will be split up into parts, so 4 videos, 1 for each class. Anyways, for our first video, or for this video, I'll be going over the Assault class. Starting us off is the Model A10. Made by John Penderson, is a pump-action shotgun with an internal hammer and a tube magazine, which load it and eject it from a port in the bottom of the receiver. An updated version, the Model 29, was later introduced in 1930 with improvements made by C.C. Loomis. In-game, it's exactly how it looks and sounds in real life, and for the effectiveness, it's maybe a bit too accurate, around that you'd pull off some snipes that you couldn't in real life. But other than that, it's basically a perfect replica, reloading the same way and everything. The M97 trench gun is up next, being designed by John Moses Browning, and is an improvement to the Winchester Model 1893. In game, it can only hold up to 5 bullets and has a high rate of fire, being able to quickly dump the entire clip into an opponent. At the cost of this high rate of fire, it is unfortunately a low damage dealer. Unlike real life, it can take up to 2 shots to kill people at close range. Next is the MP18, manufactured by Theodore Bergmann. It is the first submachine gun ever used in combat. It was first introduced into service in 1918 by the German army as a primary weapon of the Stormtruppen, assault group specialized in trench combat. Although the MP18 production ended in the 1920s, its design forms the basis of most submachine guns manufactured between 1920 and 1960. And once again, here we can see it's almost identical to its real-life counterpart in the way it looks, sounds, reloads, and its combat effectiveness, being able to effectively take out opponents at close and medium range. Up next is my personal favorite, the Automatico 1918. Designed initially as a semi-automatic rifle, the gun was made from half a Villa Perosa aircraft submachine gun, and as such can be considered the first submachine gun issued to and used by the Italian armed forces, and is possibly the first SMG used as a general issue combat weapon. With a very high rate of fire and a top clip loading system, this beast absolutely melts through opponents at close range, and even if you're an excellent shot, sometimes at medium range. However, like in real life, the high rate of fire comes with the drawback of some seriously high recoil, making this one that should definitely be kept to a close quarters combat, as you can easily be outgunned by someone with a rifle or more long-range centered weapon. The Browning Auto 5 is an American 12, 16, or 20 gauge semi-automatic shotgun designed by John Browning in 1898. It was the first successful mass-produced semi-automatic shotgun ever. It used a 4-round tubular magazine-fed system, and can have a maximum capacity of 5 rounds with an extra round in the chamber. Comparatively to the game, this checks out with the player being able to rapidly shoot off all rounds without a sweat, even being able to load a 5th shot into the chamber via the side port. In game, it has a relatively high rate of fire, with decent range, accuracy, and slightly lower damage for what you would expect a semi-auto shotgun to have. However, being semi-auto has drawbacks in that firing rounds off quickly will lead you to missing all but the first, as accuracy decreases severely with each shot, making it so you have to recenter your aim after every shot you take, which is why in game it's much better not to aim in the first place and simply hip fire, allowing you to quickly recenter your target. This practicality of hip firing could translate into real life, as missing your first shot while aiming could cost you your life. The Hellriegel 1950 was an Austro-Hungarian water-cooled submachine gun produced during World War I in very limited prototype numbers. The submachine gun could be fed from a standard box magazine or from a large drum magazine which was not actually connected to the weapon and instead fed the cartridges for a flexible cube. The unusual appearance of this drum magazine has led many people to assume it's belt-fed. However, this is not the case, as the weapon has the rounds being unconnected from one another and are propelled along the drum and fed cube by a spring. In game, it's the closest non-DLC weapon you'll get to having an assault rifle, being equally as effective at close range as it is at medium to long range if you have the skill. On to pistols, the Gasser M1870 is a heavy-hitting revolver designed by Leopold Gasser and became the first Austro-Hungarian cavalry revolver. It chambered a long 11.25mm centerfire cartridge, which had earlier been used in Fruworth carbines. In-game, it is a 2-shot at close range, and because of its high caliber even at medium range if you can land the shots. However, past that onto more rifle-oriented ranges, It can still kill but requiring a hefty 4 to 5 shots and almost inhumane levels of accuracy. The Howdah pistol was a large caliber handgun, often with 2 or 4 barrels, used in Indian Africa from the beginning of the 19th century and into the early 20th century during the British Empire era. It was originally intended for defense against tigers, lions, and other dangerous animals that may be encountered in remote areas. Barrel breech loading designs were later favored over contemporary revolvers due to their higher velocity and faster reloading potential. In-game, it's a lot like the Browning Auto 5 in that even though this pistol is a bit OP with great range and damage, the accuracy just severely decreases after the first shot. You have to use the same technique as the Browning Auto 5 in that you hip fire in favor over aiming in order to hit your target for the second time, in-game to finish your opponent off, and in real life if you miss. The 1903 hammerless, or known more as the Colt Model 1903 Pocket Hammerless, is a .32 ACP caliber self-loading semi-automatic pistol designed by John Browning and built in the Colt Patent Firearms Manufacturing Company of Hartford, Connecticut. Despite the title hammerless, the Model 1903 does have a hammer. It is covered and hidden from view under the rear of the slide. This allows for the pistol to be carried in and withdrawn from a pocket quickly and smoothly without snagging. In-game, it's a light sidearm with small damage, decent range, and accuracy. It has a relatively high rate of fire with a small magazine, which paired with the small damage can mean missing only a few shots will result in always leaving the target severely wounded, but not dead, leaving you to reload while almost always being gunned down immediately. This carries over into medium range, but even worse, as hitting all your shots will not even kill your opponents. In-game, this gun is almost always beaten out at close range by shotguns or simply pistols that do its job better, and in my mind is the worst out of the bunch. So, how did I do? Did I miss anything important, get something wrong, or looked right past the cool fact or feature? Tell me in the comments, as well as any general criticism you may have on this video. As it being my first, I would love to know how to improve and fix any annoyances or mistakes I may have made.